Welcome to How to Retire on Time, a show that answers your questions about all things retirement, including income, taxes, Social Security, healthcare, and more. This show is an extension of the book, How to Retire on Time, which you can grab today for free by going to www.howtoretireontime.com, or you can buy a physical copy on Amazon. My name is Mike Decker. I'm the author of the book, How to Retire on Time, but I'm also a licensed financial advisor, insurance agent, and tax professional, which means when it comes to money, dollars, cents, finance, investments, all of it, we can cover it all. Now, that said, please remember this is just a show. Everything you hear should be considered informational, as in not financial advice. If you want personalized financial advice, you can request a wealth analysis from my team today by going to www.yourwealthanalysis.com. With me in the studio today is Mr. David Franson. David, thanks for being here.
Yes, glad to be here.
David's going to read your questions, and I am going to do my best to answer them. You can submit your questions in at any time during the week by texting 913-363-1234. Just save that number in your phone for when you think about it, 913-363-1234, or you can email us at heymike@howtoretireontime.com. Let's begin.
Hey, Mike, how do you optimize Social Security?
The cliche answer would be figure out when you think you're going to die and how much do you get out of Social Security.
Yes.
Sounds nice, right?
Yeah.
What most people think is, I've paid into this thing for so long and it's a Ponzi scheme and it's a scam, and they get all fired up because they read some social media post about someone who made an argument about it all, and how Social Security should be abolished or whatever.
Yeah.
Fine. Everyone's allowed to get mad at stuff. And then they will say, I'm going to take it at 62 years old so I can get the max benefit, and I'm just going to take everything out and reinvest it or what. If that's you, fine. If you like to get upset about things, fine.
Yeah.
I get why you might be upset about it, but the reality is when you file will affect every other part of your plan. It's going to affect your tax planning. It's going to affect your income planning. It's going to affect your legacy planning. It's going to affect your portfolio. It's going to affect your risks. It's going to affect your healthcare planning. So to do an isolated optimization report of here's when I could file and here's the benefits and here's the break evens is a gross oversimplification of Social Security benefits. Don't do it.
Okay.
Just don't do it.
Yeah.
What you do is you run your first version of the whole plan, and then you start changing. If Social Security were earlier, how does it affect the other parts of the plan? I've had many people who, if they would have filed earlier on in Social Security, all things being equal, they would have run into issues with required minimum distributions. But by delaying Social Security a few years, in this example, and it's hard to understand over the airwaves, but by delaying their Social Security, they were able to drain down their IRA assets a little bit. They got a higher Social Security benefit, and then they did not have an RMD issue later on based on the simple projections we ran.
Okay. Yeah. So they sort of bridged that gap from retirement to receiving Social Security with their portfolio.
It's a complicated situation. I am a national Social Security advisor.
What does that mean?
Yeah. It's a fun educational credential. It's not associated with the Social Security office or administration. Okay. It was an independent group of people issue the certification that FINRA recognizes.
Okay.
Basically, what it means is I studied a ton to learn about Social Security.
Okay. All right.
Okay. And it is more complicated than people realize. There are more ways that you can file, and that's just within Social Security. Now, the fact that I can also file your taxes, that I can recommend insurance products, and that I can recommend investments, including into the alternative space, which a lot of people can't even talk about. And I can do comprehensive planning. I can tell you right now, Social Security specialists, they're specialized to do one thing, but it's not the full picture.
Right.
So be very careful about that. If you want a Social Security optimization report, look at the whole plan. Don't look at just how to get the most out of Social Security. You could end up jumping over dimes to pick up pennies. And here's just the expression I made years ago. If you file too early, your income could be hurting. But if you file too late, you could be hurting your estate. There's a ripple effect. Anything you do is going to affect everything else that you do. There's an article I wrote for Kiplinger called something to the effect of Social Security optimization for those that have $250,000 or more, say for retirement. And it was, if all things being equal, you retired at 60 years old and you had the same net income and you filed for Social Security earlier on, then you're going to take less from your portfolio. But inflation can get away and can get out of hand. And then so you have less in your later years of life because inflation, in a way, you took Social Security at a 30% discount.
Right.
And that discount was for life. And so you just had less to pass to the kids later on in life. Preserve the portfolio in the earlier years, didn't do so well in the later years. Now, if, again, all things being equal, you delayed till 70, the first 10 years, you dwindle your portfolio faster.
Mm-hmm.
But then once Social Security kicks in, then your portfolio would have been able to recover because you got Social Security at a higher benefit.
Right.
So there is going to be a break even for every person, depending on your tax planning and tax minimization strategies. Think of the analogy, if you've got rocks and sand and you want to fill the jar full, what do? Well, if you put the sand in first, the rocks in second, the rocks will sit on top of the sand. But if you put the rocks in first and the sand in second, then you can optimize and the jar can be actually full because the sand fills in all the cracks and crevices.
Mm-hmm.
The idea here is Social Security is a rock. When you file, is pretty set up, and it is what it is. Your portfolio is the sand. It's supposed to fill in all the gaps, cracks, and crevices.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that all work together to get the most out of whatever your lifestyle and legacy goals are? That's the big question here.
Right.
Also, a common misconception, Social Security does not guarantee that you're going to stay up with inflation. Social Security grows based on the CPIW, not the CPI.
Okay.
CPIW is workers' compensation, or wages look like.
Okay.
Let me say that again. CPIW, wages. That's the easier way to...
Yeah, it's like Consumer Price Index, wages.
Yep.
Okay.
Wages have not kept up with inflation. For the younger people, we're living in the silent depression because it is now more difficult to afford your basic things, a house and a car, because wages have not kept up with inflation. The same could be true with Social Security because it's not CPI in general. It's CPI based on wages. So inflation is still a risk with Social Security, and you need to address that with other assets. It's a complicated equation, and most people gloss over it out of frustration for what Social Security is based on their political or whatever agendas. That's all the time we've got for the show today. If you enjoyed the show, consider subscribing to it wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for How to Retire on Time. Discover if your portfolio is built to weather flat market cycles, or if you're missing tax minimization opportunities that you may not even know exist. Explore strategies that may be able to help you lower your overall risk while potentially increasing your overall growth and lifestyle flexibility. This is not your ordinary financial analysis. Learn more about Your Wealth Analysis and what it could do for you, regardless of your age, asset, or target retirement date. Go to www.yourwealthanalysis.com today to learn more and get started.